Good morning and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be trying to repair this Dyness B4850 lithium battery module. So what's the problem with this battery? Well, it's basically charging really quickly and discharging really quickly. What I suspect is we've got one or more cells that are actually racing. What I mean by that is they're charging up and they're getting to full charge quicker than the other cells. The BMS, the battery management system, is registering that those cells are fully charged and therefore registering that the battery is fully charged and shutting off the charging process. So what have I done to confirm this is a problem? Well, what I've done is I connected up the voltmeter when it was fully charged on the solar after removing it from the solar system completely, and found that it only had 50 volts. So from there on I decided to try and charge it with the benchtop charger a bit, and what I did is I actually set the benchtop charger to 50.5 at 3 amps charge rate and tried charging it that way, and that worked. It gradually charged it up and got it right up to 50 and a half volts. So now I thought, right, next stage we'll try and get it up and get to balance it a bit more and get it to 51. Tried it and it failed. I reduced the ampage down to 1 amp. Still failed. Started to reduce the voltage down a little bit, so it's sort of 50.6, 40.7, and then tried to reduce the ampage down to half amp. Still failed. So now we're at the position here where we're going to have to actually open up the battery and try and charge the cells. Now that presents a bit of a problem because this isn't a particularly modern battery. Dyness made this battery originally with pouches, which is going to give us a real problem if it turns out to be that, and then they went on to sort of a prism type battery. So we're at the stage now where all we can do is basically we'll get it opened up, see what type of batteries we've got in there, what type of cells we've got, and see if we can figure out a way to sort of individually balance them, or at least balance a few groups to try and bring the voltage up again. Okay, so to get this cover off, as far as I could tell, it looks like we've got a series of crosshead screws, sort of top front, top back, and some along either side here. Now I'm going to carefully undo these screws, carefully lift this top off squarely so none of the top goes inside, and reduces the risk of shorting anything out. Okay, so that's all the screws out. I've got to say I'm a tiny bit concerned because one of the characteristics of the pouches when the cells die is they tend to swell and bulge up. Now there's no bulging on these covers. Information is very limited on this. I've only ever seen one other YouTube video, and that was some Nigerian guys who disassembled one of these, and that was quite badly bulging. This crimped all the top off. But see, we've got a bit of spring here. I'm just praying that these aren't pouches and they aren't swelling underneath. So let's take the cover off and have a look. Okay, bit of a bummer there, guys. It looks like we've got the actual pouches, the 3 blocks, as I've seen in this other video, you know, from Nigeria here. Now, this one, I don't know, might seem it's like it's got a slight bulge in it, I don't know, but nothing really obvious that's pushing the packet and open and that, which I saw before, so I don't know. So I think we're going to go on to the next stage and see if we could probably disconnect the BMS, which have to be disconnected first, and then see about getting these individual pouches out. And we'll do a voltage test on each individual pouch to see if they're even or whether one's lower than the other. So we're going to have these pouches out in a minute. I've labelled them A, B and C from left to right, so to make sure they go back in the same place. Don't know if it makes a difference, but best, you know, try and keep it as original as we can. And what we're going to do is these leads here, one from each individual battery, these are the BMS leads. Now I've taken a photo, they're actually colour coded. We've got white, black, red and blue, so we know which way they go back in. So I've taken a photo of that for future reference, and now I'm going to try and unplug these leads. And that's them off. It's just a little tab on the underside of these connectors. You just push that in and pull. So that's them off. So we're on to the next stage. Okay, so now we're going to go on to individually testing these packs. Hopefully you're going to pick it up on the camera here. We've got these yellow connectors joining them up, and obviously these packs are probably about 16 volts joined together in series. As you can see here, you've got the red going into this pack, black coming out, and that black's connecting to the red, the live of the next pack, and then you see here it's coming black out of the pack to the red of the next pack. So obviously all in series. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo these yellow connectors here, and I'm going to see them get an actual voltage meter reading. Okay, so I'm going to very carefully stick my hands in here, 52 volts, and Yep, that's one disconnected. Now this looks a bit more dicey because we've got circuit board here. So I'll get my fingers in there. Okay, that's that one disconnected. Okay, so I've now got a bit of a dilemma here. I've been talking to AI about this, and they say, oh, don't take these out. These are all clamped in. Well, they don't look very clamped in to me. They seem like they're moving about. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully disconnect the live from the first battery pack, which goes to the live on the outside here. I'm going to disconnect that. I'm going to disconnect the negative here at the end of the string and try that. It also looks like we've got an additional complication here because, yeah, this goes for the BMS. So it looks like we're disconnecting here and not actually this pin. Okay, so let's get that one undone. I think I'll take the negative off first, which is actually a pull fit, and then we'll undo this with a screwdriver and see if we can get these packs off out individually. Okay, and it looks like we're going to have to snip this little bit here so we can get the BMS cables out the way as well. Okay, so now we've got these untaped a bit. A slight hiccup to our plan here. It looks like all these sort of BMS cables are all linked to the individual cells, which kind of makes sense now. Doesn't look like it's been that easy to disconnect it from the cells down here. So it looks like we're going to have to try and lift all three of these out in one go. So I think what we need to do is disconnect this red cable from down in here. And here it looks like we've got another additional connector underneath here as well to disconnect. Okay, so as far as I can tell, we're all disconnected and we should be able to stand these up individually. So they're going to come out from underneath there. I suspect once one's out, the other one should come out easy. Okay, let's move this chassis completely out the way. And now we've got our three separate battery blocks. Okay, so we've got the voltmeter connected up. A little bit confused as to why we've got two wires here, especially in this connector, because the two wires are joined together there. And the two connectors are separate on this one. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's two strings in each one of these battery packs joined together in parallel, I'm not sure. But nevertheless, the voltage looks about right there. Just test that one. That's 16.73. And this is the pack which is slightly suspect. It's not hugely fat, but it looks a little bit fatter than the other ones. So, yeah, let's move on to the next one and see what voltage we're getting with that. Okay, we're connected to the middle one now on the voltmeter. And we're getting 16.77. It's slightly higher voltage, but nothing major. So yeah, let's move on to the last one and see what we've got. Okay, and I've just took a reading off this end one, and that's at 16.77, 78. So more or less the same as the middle one. Still a little bit confused as to, you know, why we've got two connectors in each one of these. I should probably take a reading off the other ones off camera and see if there's any, you know, difference. And if not, we'll move on to the next stage. So it looks after that test that the first cell is out, the one that's bulging slightly. It's only a slight discrepancy, but it's enough. So we're going to go on to try and identify, you know, how many cells are damaged in here and which cell it is. And we're going to try and do that through these BMS cables. Now I've got my voltmeter here and I've connected up, I can't remember what they're called, the JS something connector. It's just two pins, and what it means is it saves risk in shorting the wires out when you're actually testing them. You can put just two pins in there and connect the crocodile clips to it, but it's a bit risky. So I've made this up, I've connected the voltmeter, and now we're going to go through these wires on here, on the BMS wires, in sequence and see what discrepancies we've got. So I've tested these wires 2 at a time. What you do is you do sort of wire 1 and 2 with this connector, and then 2 and 3 with that connector, and I've done sort of 4 and 5 with that connector, but because it's bridged over 2 connectors, we're still going to have to use the pin method so we can test wire 3 and 4. Up to now we've had 3.5 on all of those, so if something's going to go wrong, it's going to be with it between number 3 and number 4 on here to test that cell. And we're going to have to use pins for that, which is a bit more dodgy, but we'll be careful. Okay, and on this, what we've done is use the pin method. If you use this, be super careful, keep them way apart from each other because you don't want them shorting together. And I've pushed 1 pin in the 3rd wire, 1 pin in the 4th wire of the BMS to test that, of the BMS wires, and we're getting a reading of 3.31. So I'm going to check tolerances, but it looks like that may be the string that's in trouble. Okay, so what I think we're going to try and do now is we're going to try and just charge that individual cell. We're going to bring it up from the 3.32 to 3.35 like the other cells here. Unfortunately, it is going to be between 2 connectors, which is not great, but we'll just have to be really careful with the pins. So I think it's, yeah, set up the bench charger and see if we can charge it up, and then what we'll have to do then is leave it sit for a couple of hours and see if it loses its charge again, and then we can tell whether it's just out of balance or whether the actual cell is busted. I mean, it's hard to tell, but it does look like there is a very slight bulge in there, so I do suspect that maybe, yes, one of the pouches has had it, but it's worth a go. Okay, so this is my benchtop charger. I originally bought this for doing e-bike batches and balancing e-bike batches, but it's going to do this as well. Now, I recommend if you buy this machine yourself, I will leave a link in the description for AliExpress. It's actually European stock, so you'll get, 3-day delivery within the EU, and obviously, customs charges. But this has been a great little machine. They do this in 0 to 30 volts, 0 to 60 volts, and then it goes up from there. I recommend you buy the 0 to 60 volts if you're going to buy one, because that covers you for basically everything you're going to do. If you've got e-bike batteries, it'll do a 52 volt e-bike battery, and of course it'll do all these 48 volt batteries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to set this up without it being connected to these batteries, because we're charging through the BMS cables. They're very thin cables. We don't want to be going over 1 amp, so I'm going to get all the settings done on the machine first before we actually get it set up on and charging. So looking at the screen on the camera, this isn't really showing me anything. It's doing something really weird. But anyway, this is set on 50.50. We certainly don't want that. So let's get that down straight away. Like I said, I don't know if you're going to get this picked up, but I'm going to get that down to 0. And that onto 3. Right, hang on. 3.35 volts. And then we certainly don't want to be going 3 amps, and we've got that on 1 amp. Now I don't know if you're seeing that. All I'm seeing on this screen is it going like that, but take my word for it, we've got the voltage at the top here set to 3.35 and this to 1 amp. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and connect it up to the batteries. You can see it's off, and then we'll switch it on. Okay, so just to be sure before I start, I've just reversed the leads over with the voltmeter. It's quite a basic old meter, but it has confirmed what I wanted to find out. If I've reversed them round, so obviously that's got the live, that's got the negative, and if you come over to the meter, you see now we've got the minus sign. So that looks like we've got them on the wrong way round. So in actual fact, this pin on this wire is the live. If we had the positive connected to it, we wouldn't have the minus side. And that's a negative, so that tells us which way round they need to be when I connect the charger. So this has got to be positive from the charger, negative from the charger. Okay, and I'm keeping these as far away as I can from each other. Okay, we seem to have a connection. Double check everything, we're happy. So now I'm going to come round to here. That's off, and we're going to switch that on. Okay, so that's instantly, I really don't know if you're seeing this on here, but it instantly went up to 3.35 from the 3.32, and now it's sort of settled on 0.129 amps, so it's stopped. So that's charged really quickly, which is not a good sign at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the charger, let it sit for a while, and then we'll take another amp meter reading, and see whether it's gone back down again. Okay, so again, not sure if you're seeing this, but this is still dropping these amps. So I think whilst the cell's still soaking up some power, I'm going to leave it and see, and let it soak up the maximum power it possibly can, and then see if it holds it. Okay, we're coming to the end of charging this cell. It's been about an hour. I don't know if you can read on there, but you can certainly read on here that I've had to sort of force feed this cell by moving it to try and get it to go to 3.35. I've had to actually set it to the charge up to 3.39. Now it looks like it's getting there, and as I switch this off, I think you'll see if I switch the charger off, it's dropping down to 335, 356. So I think we're going to leave it off now. That's pretty good. I'll leave it for say half an hour, come back, take a reading off the voltmeter and see if it's holding its charge. So it's 24 hours later. I left this a full 24 hours to see whether it held its charge. I've just connected it back up with these pins again, and we can see from the voltmeter that it's actually dropped back down to 3.31, 3.32. So yeah, not good at all. That cell isn't going to hold its charge anywhere past that voltage. So yeah, basically not going to work in its current state. So I've got to make a decision now. Do I replace that single cell? By all accounts, it's not easy. It's not just a case of just unbolting and bolting a new one in. They're actually sort of welded together, ultrasonically welded. Apparently the tabs on these pouches together in the factory are a big expensive machine. So we're not going to be able to sort of duplicate that process. So we need to find a way of sort of, you know, getting a new pouch and getting it either soldered in or bolted in, some people say. We'll have to have a look at that. But I think before we make a final decision, I think it's best to sort of test all the individual cells in all the packs, because it seems pretty pointless getting a new cell put in here with all the extra problems that can probably cause, because obviously at the minute we've got one cell dragging things down. We could quite easily have one new cell overperforming and the other one's not be able to keep up with it. So I think what we'll do is we'll check all the strings and all these other cells. We've got them, more over there as well, more here, on these other two battery packs, see what condition they're in. If they are slightly low, see if we can recharge them and whether they'll take a charge. And if they do and they hold the charge and they look in quite good condition, then we'll take this one apart and consider, you know, replacing that one cell. If they're not, I think it'll be time to repair this battery, retire this battery completely, and just keep it as spares for the other one which I've got, which is identical, which is currently working okay in the solar shed. Okay, so I've just tested these all over again. I've used a special pin connected to the negative and the live again on the ammeter and plugged it in as I went along bit by bit. As many as I can try. No doubt there's some that need a pin in one and a pin in the other to bridge in that. But I'm not going to go that far. I've gone and tested every one I can, and the general theme is 3.35 on all of them. So I do think probably it's worth having this apart and having a look at this cell and seeing firsthand for myself, you know, how complicated it is fitting a new one. Now looking at this, it looks like we can probably disconnect here. There we go, that's out of the way. And that means that cell's completely separated. So then we can take this out probably for safety purposes, you know, just in case there's any problems, any fires or anything. And gently take this apart and see what's inside. So we have our complete battery pack out here now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and undo it from this reverse side, take the tape off and see if we can slide it out this way. So, yeah, it just looks like normal clear sticky tape. A little flap there. Yes, it will. Okay, we've got to try and feed. I don't think these cables are going to feed through there, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip across here so that they'll feed out. Very carefully, nothing there. Okay. I'll move this flap up and see if that's going to slide through. And there we go. This is all our pouches. Now, there was quite a lot of talk when I was researching this online about how these are all clamped together and you'll have screw clamps and bar and everything. By the looks of it, all it is taped. So there's nothing, you know, major going on there. So let's see if we can identify the bulging cell. Yeah, it's hard to tell just by looking at it. I think it may be this one here. It may even be two of them. If it's two of them, it's going to be job done. We're not messing. Okay, I think we're going to say gently have to take this apart.
Yeah, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice, this is like foam, just slice down here the two which I think are the culprits here. Oh, hang on, no, it looks like it's going to peel off. Okay, and hopefully you can pick that up on camera now. We can quite easily see these. 1, 2, 3, 4 seem okay. Then we've got 2 that look like they're bulging, and then we've got the other 4 that look like they're okay. Just out of interest, we'll separate this at this end. See what we've got. Okay, it looks like we've got all tabs along here. Let's try and take that off. And that's not as expected at all. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a photo of this, see what AI's got to say for itself. But this is not as advertised. This was meant to be tabs joined together that come at the end of these packs. Okay, so I've just had a quick chat with AI, and as suspected, it looks like it's going to be no-go from this point on. If you turn and look at this, these have been, even though that looks like solder, it isn't. It's actually ultrasonically done with a machine there. Even if we could release that without overheating it, you know, how the hell are we going to get these 2 cells done in the centre here? So unfortunately, it looks like this battery's had it. Now, I have been thinking about replacing them anyway. I've been seeing a really good deal for around 1,600 euros. There's a battery place in Poland that does grade A plus cells, and they do a 15 kilowatt battery for what was it, 1,600 euros. So I think that's a hell of a good deal there, and that would mean then I could have aircon on at night, and if we had a couple of cloudy days, it wouldn't matter. You know, it'd be more than enough power for our house. You know, wouldn't ever get close to using that. So I'm thinking now's the time to probably sell my other Dyness battery, maybe this one for spares. I will have a look online to see if there's any spares or repairs batteries, so I can maybe, you know, disassemble it and get one decent pack. If there's something cheap like that, I may do that to try and repair this one. But I think for now, you know, we're just going to run on the single battery. We're almost through the summer now anyway, so there's not much point, you know, with, you know, getting a new battery now. And then when it gets around to spring next year, we'll get a spring deal, get a brand new 15 kilowatt battery and fit that, and then sell this, you know, the good remaining Dyness unit. We'll get rid of that and sell that second hand. So unfortunately, yeah, that's brought this video to a conclusion, a rather abrupt conclusion without a repair. I'll give you a quick look around this pack so you can see, because there's no real information I've seen online, so you can see what it really is. And then I think we'll bring this video to a close. So yeah, this is basically it from all sides. What you've got inside there. Like I say, it does confirm you've got 3 battery packs, all with 10 cells each. If you look from the top, you see they're soldered there. They're also, if you see, soldered here as well. So I think all that remains is to thank you for watching. Please have a little look in the description for a link for that desktop charger. I'm going to thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.